What's up, weekend warriors, and welcome back to the week 15 edition of the show. We are back. I got my Christmas tree back. Now it's appropriate. It's December, an appropriate time to have it up. I'm trying to harness last year's energy, rocking the Jaden Daniels LSU jersey. He's who brought me to the promised land last year. He's out. It's a new year. He's not on my team. Um, but, trying to harness that energy, hopefully bring back a championship to Sewell, New Jersey. We'll see. But we foreshadowed a tight race in the league's playoffs here. And as of the last week of the season, there are no teams that have actually locked up a spot. And everybody is still up for grabs out of the 8-6 and 9-5 teams. So, um, you know, I wish I would have taken care of business last week and put my stamp on it. We'll get to it. I almost pulled the craziest upset of all time, but I fell just short. Shout out Jalen Hurts. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. But it is any man's game. Maybe the most wide open this league has been in a long time. I was joking earlier about my championship last year, but like my team was like 13-2, a powerhouse. I've said it on many shows prior to this show, but my team is not nearly as good as it was last year. But in addition to that, there's a lot of parity across the league. I know we've joked and had some fun with Brett, but with his high point amount and not a lot to show for it, while his team is very good and still maybe the best team in the league, there's parity. There's parity. So week 15, let's get into it. And let me just say one other thing. The race for last place is on. It is on. And Jake put a stamp on it last week. So let's start with that. Jake last week gets a win. I predicted him to lose. Now I'm all goofed up here. Yeah, I had Valone over Jake. That was incorrect. Jake took care of Valone. I had Terry over Chris. That was correct. And a big reason why the ninth and 10th place teams flip flop. So 1-1. I had Brett over Booty. That was correct. 2-1. I had Kevin over Dean. That was correct. 3-1. And then I had myself to beat Otley, which was incorrect. Ott had a 40-point lead going into Monday Night Football with Jalen Hurts, and I had Hampton and my kicker. And Dicker, the kicker, had about 23, and Hurts got -4 on one play. I've never seen that before. Through an interception. The defender fumbled the ball. Hurts picked it up. Then Hurts fumbled the ball. An INT -2, a fumble -2 on the same play. Hurts ended up with -4 and change. And I fell less than 2 points shy. Would have been, I think it would have made I quit fantasy football. So in a way, I guess I'm glad that I didn't come back and win, but I was asleep. That game went into overtime, and I woke up with like 5 or 6 texts from Ott. It's like you got to be kidding me. Is Hurts really doing this to me? Blah 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 blah. I might start Daniel Jones with a torn Achilles next week. So it was close, but a big, huge, tremendous win for Otley over me. Kevin, high score of the week, $50 so far accumulated for Kevin. I was 3-2 on the week. That brings me to 43-27 on my predictions. And for my NFL picks, it wasn't good. I kind of teetered on the over with Dallas and Detroit, but then I was like, Amon-Ra's going to be out, so I don't want to take the over. I had Dallas, then Amon-Ra actually ended up being in. No excuses. Dallas +3. They lost by 2 touchdowns to Detroit. That was a loss. The Thursday Night King has to get back on track this week. I had the Falcons +7, and the first half was tight, and then they got their doors blown off. So terrible pick. 0-2, 11-17. The redemption tour takes a detour off the highway. Let's see if we can get ourselves figured out here in week 15. All right, the standings. I mean, do I have to say it? This week is the first week, and let me back up. Take a breath, Ty. Let me back up. Last week I said a couple of these matchups don't matter because a couple teams that are out of it were playing another couple teams that were out of it. This week, looking across the board, every matchup matters. Teams have a chance to play spoiler. Teams have a chance to not come in last. Teams have a chance to knock off an opponent that is currently in the playoff race. It is a 16 race for 4 playoff spots. Although our playoffs don't start till next week and a lot of playoffs start this week, this is essentially a playoff week for a lot of teams. So, goes without saying. An analysis of the standings is essentially, Kevin, myself, and Otley are in a little bit of a better spot with 9 wins. That being said, with Brett and Dean specifically behind those teams, Brett has more points than everybody. Dean has 12 less points than me and 13 points less than Kevin. Yeah, me and Kevin are less than 1 point apart. And then Booty's the one that has the most uphill climb because he does not have the points. So he needs to win, and they need some other teams to lose. So Booty, the toughest path to get in. Myself and Kevin probably in the best position of the 9-5 teams because we have about 75 more points than Ott. And then Brett in a good spot. He wins and he's in, right? It's always good to control your own destiny. So the top 4 teams control their own destiny. Dean needs help. Booty needs a lot of help. But it's super, super doable. The waiver wire was interesting. The teams that are out of it, spending their fab, can't take it home with you. Need to avoid last place. I support it. Big pickup with Fannin. Brett dropped some money on the Eagles D against the really superb Vegas Raiders led by Kenny Pickett. So we'll see how it goes. I am officially out of fab, which kind of stinks, but it's that time of year, guys. Remember, you will get $10 of fab the first round of the playoffs and $10 of fab the second round of the playoffs if you make it and if you advance. Reminder to everybody. All right, let's get into it. This has been a fun season. I wish everyone luck in these matchups, and I'm going to call it like I see it. I'm going to give my best, most unbiased opinion on this pod for my picks. And we're going to start with what I had written down right here, which is Kevin over Terry. Remember, if I predict you to win on this pod, you have a very good chance of winning. Keep that in mind. Terry, valiant effort last week. He has guys like Puka Nacua and James Cook on his team. Nacua, 35.2 points last week. He has guys that can do that. James Cook has had games like that this year. Dak Prescott, Sunday Night Football, he has blow-up games. So he has some guys here with some potential. That being said, he has some holes in his lineup with, maybe Josh Downs, DJ Moore, Pearsall, Stevenson. Got to figure out which guys to play. We mentioned no Jaden. And we've said on Jaden, hey, what's up? What's up, guys? We mentioned Kevin. Man, Kevin might be getting, this is like overcorrection. Maybe we're patting him on the back too much now. His team's solid, high score of the week last week. Achane banged up. And Kev was concerned about that, but best case scenario, I mean, he could have came back in last week. They said it looks like he's going to play. So the Gibbs, Achane, Chase Brown stack remains. Those guys last week combined for, let me count, 3, 4, 6 touchdowns from 3 running backs. Kev's will be tough to beat if that keeps happening. And A.J. Brown all of a sudden is coming on as a late season push. So with guys like that paired with some playmakers, McMillan and Waddle, Kevin has a strong team. While I think Terry can pull the upset, I think that Kevin is going to win. I think he's going to finish the year as either the 1 or 2 seed, depending on what my team decides to do. Like I said, we're less than a point apart, so it'll be who scores more points this week. I like Kevin's team. I think he's deserving of a playoff spot, and I think he gets in after a win over Terry this week. So, Kevin, that's 1 for you counting at home. My next matchup of this week, I have Otley and Jake, and this is a huge matchup for 2 reasons. Jake can avoid last, which we know he wants to do very badly after his last place finish last year. He's, not been checked out, but just like not, doesn't have that spunk behind him, doesn't have that pep in his step. But last week, a big win, picked up Phillip Rivers, nice team mascot there. How does it go right for Jake? Well, Barkley's playing better. He's at home against Vegas. Drake May in a potential shootout against Buffalo. Uh, he also has Mahomes, but as of now, he has May and Mahomes coming off a bad week. He was playing Houston. Um, let's see. Woody Marks been better. Big pickup of Fannin. And then we know his wide receivers leave a lot to be desired between BTJ, Flowers, and Diggs. On the other side, though, Otley in a little bit of trouble. He's got Evans coming back potentially, but Lamb in concussion protocol. He needs him to play. Right now, he's running the two tight end set with Bowers and Pitts. You know, he had Pierce and he was relying on Pierce, and now Pierce is, going to be Philip Rivered. Take that for what it's worth. So, he's got Hurts in his lineup. He needs Hurts in theory should have a good game. He needs him to. Minus 4.4 last week. Almost cost him a win. So I guess what I'm saying is, despite the win last week from Ott, I mean, let's be real. Let's call it like it is. He had 23 points from Aubrey, and he had 19 points from his defense. So what's that? Let's do some quick math. What is that? 42 points between his kicker and his D, and he scored 120. I mean, they picked up the slack. Now, luckily for Ott, Seattle's playing P. River. So, and Brendan Aubrey's the best kicker in football. So maybe it's a recipe for success. But can the other players on his team give him enough points? I am going to pick Otley to win this game. I think he will win this game. Again, just because Jake got one win after, 7 in a row, I'm not going to jump back on his bandwagon. Me and the rest of the league are rooting for Jake to beat Ott in this matchup. I'm going to use the same philosophy for Otley that I'm going to use for myself. If you can't beat Jake to get in his 4-10 team, you don't deserve to be in the playoffs. I think Ott gets it done. But what I will say is he's leaking a little bit of oil heading into the playoffs. Can Evans, can Lamb get healthy? Can Jacob stay healthy? Can Hurts turn it around? I think he could. And I think next week it could look a lot different. But this week, I'm a little bit down on Ott's team. I think he has enough to get over the hump with Jake. That's 2 wins. I'm predicting Otley and Kevin to make the playoffs. All right, TV timeout. My Thursday night pick. I've been wrestling with this one, guys. I really have been wrestling with this pick. And the most obvious pick is Tampa Bay minus 4.5. Get back on track. But why is this line only 4.5? Tampa needs to win this game. Baker's injured, doesn't look right, but they are getting Evans back. Atlanta, I bet them last week. They look like a dumpster fire. They look totally awful. Cousins is completely washed. P. River might be better. That being said, the line's 4.5. It hasn't moved. All the bets are on Tampa, but the sharp money appears to be on the Falcons. I have to take the Falcons plus 4.5. This is a square play would be to take the Bucks. And it seems like the right pick. And especially because I've been taking a lot of dogs on Thursday night. And I have Baker in my starting lineup right now as a quarterback in this game. And I don't know if that's going to stand, but I guess what I'm trying to say is, despite that, I still am going to go with the Falcons. It's my pick. It's my official pick as a Thursday Night King. Hopefully it's 38-35 Bucks. We'll see how it goes. I'll give up my other pick right now, too. Why not? Screw it. Another game where a lot of the money is on New England. I guess I should have waited to say that because now you know who I'm going to pick. Buffalo money line. I think this is Buffalo's year, man. Josh Allen doesn't have to go through Arrowhead. Burrow's out of it. Lamar, we've talked about him. If Allen and the Bills can't get it done now, they don't look 100% right themselves. They lost to New England earlier this year, but New England's had a kind of a cake schedule. Buffalo minus 1.5 on the road in New England. I'm taking the money line. I think they get it done. That's an official pick on this pod. Josh Allen and the Bills. Money line. Money line. All right, this is where it's going to get interesting, guys. My next matchup is Brett and Vallone. Vallone, the agitator. 5-8. I'm sorry, 5-9. 2 losses in a row. Has a chance to play spoiler here against Brett. Jonathan Taylor has a new quarterback. Justin Jefferson forgot how to play football. Not really. They just don't have a quarterback. Hasn't scored more than 8.6 since week 9. I guess luckily, if there's any silver lining, McCarthy looked halfway decent, and they're playing the Cowboys. Now or never. We've said it about Brown before. Smith, can Devonta Smith catch a long touchdown? Watson has been Vallone's MVP. So let's give a polite applause for Watson. But, you know, I can't, in good faith, predict an upset in this matchup. Brett has the quarterbacks. I looked at this today, rankings, right? First and second quarterbacks ranked on the week, Stafford and Lamar. Who will he choose? I feel like, Brett hates Lamar, so it might be an easy decision. Derrick Henry in the Cincinnati matchup should have a nice day. JSN coming off the bad week, then he came back and scored 2 touchdowns the next week. Brett needs a good start with Ibuka. Another weird guy we've been talking about. He's a good player. Evans coming back, I think actually probably helps Ibuka. But, Brett, he has a good team. Kittle, Dowdle. Javante's tailed a little bit. Rasheed, still good. Bad week last week. And again, all of the teams that are trying to get in are rooting for Vallone. Vallone, we're behind you. But I can't, in good faith, predict an upset in this matchup. I'm taking Brett to beat Vallone, and that would be my third playoff team if that happens. Brett over Vallone. I hate to be chalky. I don't want to be chalky, but to be fair, if you look at the projections, Otley's actually not favored to win versus Jake. So maybe you could make the argument that that's, it's like an odds maker line, like I looked at with the Falcons. I don't know. I'm just saying, I'm calling it as I see it. I wish I could come out and say Jake's going to beat Vallone's going to beat Brett, but I'm trying to be objective here, and that's the way I see it. And what I will say is, I doubt I will go 5-0 in these projections. So let's play Russian roulette, guys. Let's play Russian roulette. Who is going to get the rug pulled out from under him? We will see. All right, 2 more matchups. This one's important, and it's the matchup of the week. It's Booty and Dean. And while both of these teams are currently on the outside looking in, the winner of this game will have a chance to make it. Like we said, Booty needs to win, and he needs some of my predictions earlier to go the other way. He does not have the points advantage over these teams. He could get a points advantage over Ott if, like, Booty goes nuclear, right? But really what this comes down to is he needs Vallone to beat Brett. Because if Vallone were to beat Brett, then Booty would, even if he would have 9 wins and Brett would have 8 wins. If Booty wins and the other ones I predicted, they would be tied with 9 wins. I don't think Booty can leapfrog based on points. So Booty's path is simple. He needs a Brett loss and a Booty win. Dean's path is different. And it's a little bit more, there's options for Dean, okay? Dean could win, and he's already way ahead of Otley in points. So if he just wins and Otley loses, or Brett loses, or if Dean wins and Kevin or myself lose, and he scores 13 points more than either of us, he can leapfrog. So Dean can pass anybody, in theory. It starts with a win. He's got to win. So either way, Booty and Dean both have a chance. They have to win their matchup. If they win their matchup, they need a little bit of help. Booty needs a lot of help. Dean needs a little bit of help. So, let's see who's going to win this matchup. What I will say is London being out is hurting Dean. But besides that, Bijan has still been a machine. Josh Allen, I said it last week, is he going to have the spike week versus Cincinnati? He sure did. 38 points. A big reason why he won. And in New England in this tough game, look for Allen to have a rushing touchdown. Look for him to throw a few. He'll have 25-plus points. Devontae's been a machine, but he didn't score last week for the first time since week 6. So I expect him to get back in the end zone in a high-scoring game against Detroit. So my other thought about it pick, Rams, Detroit, McVay, Goff, rematch, Stafford, old team, kind of a conglomerate of things there. I like the over in that game. Detroit can't really stop anybody. The Rams just let up a ton of points to Carolina. The Rams just scored 50. The over-under, I don't even know what it is. I would take the over in that game. Who else? So Dean, again, the London thing hurts because Dean is relying on guys like Wandale, who's been good, and Jawan Jennings, who's been good when Dean has called upon him, and Harvey's been phenomenal. So Dean's plugging the gaps here, and low key, Travis Etienne, he's been good. 19, 19, 5, 20 his last 4 games, playing at home against the Jets. Can't draw up a better matchup than that. You cannot draw up a better matchup than that. On the other side, we've talked about it all year. Booty, stars, and then, some slubs that he needs some points from. CMC's back off a bye at home against Tennessee. Woohoo! Watch out. That's a big game. Burrow has been phenomenal since he's been back. He's one of his studs. And Amon Ra, fully healthy in the shootout I just mentioned. Trey McBride, tough matchup, but he will get it done. The Let me see what I have written down. The matchup here favors Booty slightly. They announced London is out. I do think CMC is going to have a phenomenal game. Addison's a little sneaky against the Cowboys, I guess, right? I'm taking Dean. I think Josh Allen's going to have the big game. I think Bijan pretty much cancels McCaffrey, maybe. I think Devontae gets, a touchdown. I think Dean needs this one. I think he makes it messier. If Booty wins, it's good for me. If Booty can't pass me, that would be kind of nice. Take the pressure off. But I got to be objective. I think Dean gets it done against Booty. That's my prediction. And waiting on my next prediction, even a win, he could still be on the outside looking in, but you got to win. Give me Dean in the matchup of the week in week 15. And that's myself against Chris. It's a big matchup. Earlier this year, I beat Chris. Chris has not had the best season. He's lost 7 in a row. We use the same terminology and thought process I said with Otley and Jake. If you can't beat Jake, you don't deserve to be in. If I can't beat Chris and take care of business in this last week, I don't deserve to be in. My team is kind of, I won't say in shambles. That's not the right way to say it, but it's just in flux. And what I mean by that is, was counting on a big game from Pickens last week, and he's got some stuff going on with effort being questioned and calling out Richard Sherman on Instagram, and he scares me. I'll be honest with you. He's been probably my favorite player to watch in football this year, biasedly, but he's just a maniac. And, Lamb may or may not be in, but I digress. I'm just saying, I guess, he's a wild card. I got Michael Wilson, who has like Jerry Rice 2.0, but if Marv plays against Houston, I don't know what to do with him. Brees, I think I'm playing quarterback for the Jets this week. That's scary as all get out. We talked about Baker. I just have a lot of question marks. I want to play Hampton again. He looked good last week, but he's got a tough matchup. This is going to be a tough test for me as a manager to try to play the right players this weekend. I hope I can figure it out. I think there's a lot of 50-50 calls, and I'm going to do my best to get it right. On the other hand, T. Higgins being banged up helps me in more ways than one. If T doesn't play, that's bad for Chris. That should, in theory, be good for Jamar. And Jamar had a bad week last week, so I expect him to bounce back. So hopefully T doesn't go. But what scares me about Chris is he's got Irving Thursday night in a game where I might be starting Baker. If they get 2 or 3 rushing touchdowns, that's going to hurt. I don't like starting in a hole. Started in a hole last week. Didn't end up well. And then, Nico's been very good. Chris has some touchdown opportunity, guys, with Nico and Sutton. Genty, kind of a box of chocolates. I'm not impressed with Philly's run defense. That makes me nervous, too. Getting down to brass tacks, I need to win this week. My back's against the wall. Can Chris beat me? Absolutely. The app gives him a 45% chance. I think I'm going to win and take care of business and punch my ticket to the playoffs. If I lose, I have a chance to still make it with some help. We will see. Guys, this is going to be an incredibly fun week. It's coming down to the wire. I will be back for the round 1 of the playoffs next week. I wish you guys good luck in your playoff endeavors. Here's my Christmas tree. Ho, ho, ho. Go Tigers. Commish out.